Welcome to another episode of 3 Minute Marketing. I'm your main man, Chris Mechanic, co-founder here at Web Mechanics and veteran performance marketer. 3 Minute Marketing is all about talking with some of the leading growth marketing experts and then chunking it down for you into bite-sized, easily digestible, and crunchy pieces, as our producers like to say. Super excited for the show today. We've got Brendan Hurley, which is the Chief Marketing and Communications Officer at the Goodwill of Greater Washington, D.C., a very impressive individual background at iHeartMedia. I know you're iHeartMedia alum, and you were running some of the largest stations over there, winning awards left and right. You've been published, I know, in the Washington Post, the New York Times, and some other really reputable things. For innovation specifically, I know you've been awarded. And then, of course, you've moved over to the nonprofit sector. But super excited to have you here today. Welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here. I appreciate the invitation.
Absolutely. So we were talking pre-show and we came up with a really good topic that I know a lot of brands are struggling with. It's not exactly what you would think of in terms of growth marketing, where you would think, e-commerce sales or lead generation or customer acquisition. But it does have a lot of similarities. And I know a lot of brands are struggling to recruit right now. There's a lot of economic dynamics that contribute to that, and we could talk about that. But I know, Brendan, you guys are doing some really impressive things in terms of recruiting for Goodwill of Greater Washington, D.C. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing, what you're learning, any breakthroughs that you've had thus far, and your time starts now.
Sure. Well, we share a lot of those other challenges that you identified as well: lead generation, demand generation, focusing on retail, e-commerce, our job training programs. We're busy recruiting for our adult public charter high school, getting students in, for our job training programs, getting people to train them to re-enter the workforce. The biggest challenge that we have had, and we have really had to make a pretty heavy shift from a marketing standpoint, is into the recruitment marketing side, specifically for our retail operations. Like many other retailers and businesses that are struggling right now to rebuild their workforce as they come out of the pandemic, when we closed down our stores in March of last year and just started to reopen in June of last year, we struggled to get people to return to work for a variety of reasons. One, the stimulus packages are to some degree hurting us because people are comfortable staying at home and living off of the money the government is providing them. And there are other people who simply aren't prepared to come back to work yet because of health and safety reasons, which is fully justified. So it's caused some real challenges for us. But we are taking a very aggressive and I hope an innovative approach to trying to reach potential new team members with a real focus on digital marketing. We're doing a lot of mobile display. We're doing a lot of paid search. But where we have found, oddly enough, the strongest return on investment right now isn't really costing us much money at all, and that is our own retail loyalty club. We have been recruiting from people who are already Goodwill store shoppers, and they have an affinity for Goodwill. They understand Goodwill. They know our mission. And so the opportunity to come and work at a Goodwill store, it becomes very appealing to them. And imagine if your favorite retail store suddenly knocking your door, if you were looking for it, and said, "Hey, why don't you come and work for us?"
That's brilliant. I love that. That's so scrappy. Recruiting from your owned audiences. So how did you operationalize that?
We send out a series of emails every month to our loyalty club, and as a new feature, typically those newsletters were focused around shopper benefits and information about what's going on at our Goodwill. But we started to add a new feature that highlights open jobs at Goodwill, and they could be retail jobs or they can be administrative jobs, wherever our human resource department or our people and culture department wants to focus their efforts and where there's the greatest need. And what we've seen is that a lot of people who have this affinity for Goodwill are applying for those jobs. And so it makes it easier for us from a hiring perspective. It doesn't cost us anything. These are people that already understand the organization and its mission, and they understand our retail or administrative operations. So it's paying off, and we're going to continue to focus on that population as a referral source.
I love that. Time is up, but I do have some other questions. If you can stay, we'll include some show notes and a link to some additional footage if Brendan's able to stay, but you may have to jump. either way, that's awesome. I loved it. Scrappy, owned audience strategy. Everybody's got an email list, right? I think that's brilliant. Just recruit from your email list. That's well done, Brendan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, real quick, do you want to say anything? Can folks, if they want more information about you or Goodwill of Greater DC?
If anyone wants to know more about Goodwill of Greater Washington, our job training programs, our business operations, or our adult charter high school, they can visit dcgoodwill.org, and everything they need to know is right there.
Awesome. Thank you. Check it out, guys. Brendan, sign up for his email list and see how they're doing their recruitment. Sounds like it's going well. But I do actually think that that's brilliant to use that owned audience email list like that. And I'm wondering, so it sounds like you've started doing this, seen some early successes. Are you planning any iterations, or are you going to be changing the approach? Right now, it's like a feature within a newsletter.
Yeah, so we're going to be taking a more aggressive approach now. It started out as a feature within the newsletter, and now we're going to be sending out dedicated emails that are completely focused on recruitment efforts.
Yeah.
We've got a loyalty club of 125,000 shoppers. So, within our region, that's a fairly large number of, a fairly large pool of applicants. And we were surprised, I have to admit, when we first went into this, my philosophy was with the newsletters that were going out to our loyalty club, it really needed to be completely focused on the customer benefit. That's why they joined the newsletter, right? They subscribed to it. It's why they joined the loyalty club. They wanted something out of it. It had to be a transactional relationship. But the pandemic, of course, changed our way of thinking. And so we had to look at the assets that were available to us and rethink how we were going to tap into the populations that we already had a relationship with. And so it forced us to use that population as a referral source. And I have to admit, I was pleasantly surprised by the strong response that we got, even from the very first communication that we distributed around recruitment efforts. And it's not only for our business operations, but also for our job training programs, which, if you think about it, makes a lot of sense. Many people who are shopping at Goodwill are people that are shopping because they like to, they want to. They're thrift shoppers, they're vintage shoppers, they love the thrill of the hunt. But there are many people who are shopping at our stores who have to. They're looking to save every dollar, and so recruiting from that population for our job training programs and for jobs makes logical sense when you think about it, because many of these people lost their jobs during the pandemic, and they need access to jobs or job training so that they can re-enter the workforce and support themselves and their families. So, when you think about it logically, it shouldn't be very surprising, but it wasn't a natural thought up front because of how we typically think about, communicating with a loyalty club.
So I was telling you about this large home service brand that approached us for help with recruiting. One thought that came to mind for them, we're not actually doing it yet because we're just kind of creating a playbook. But they're going to do a similar thing amongst their current employees. So they have, thousands probably of employees, multiple thousands. And they did a similar thing, included it within a feature of a newsletter, and got, some number of referrals. I think it was in the dozen, a couple dozen referrals, which they were really encouraged by. But one of the things that we're recommending to them is, hey, make it more specific, give it its own little forum, so it's not a feature of a newsletter, but rather something else. And then to charge it emotionally, kind of, I don't want to say the name, but it's XYZ company, this is we need your help right now, team, get a little emotional about it. And I think that would really apply in your guys' world, being a mission and a cause-driven organization, So if you could, so that's a couple of thoughts for you. You might do that amongst existing, and they're of course asking for referrals, not for direct applications.
Yeah, it's interesting, but you're absolutely right. Tapping into those heartstrings, I think, can really make a difference. When we first closed down our stores, again, looking at the loyalty club through a different lens, one of the things we did was go back to them and ask them if they would make financial donations, because our income streams had dried up, right? And we wanted to try to find a way to supplement the health insurance of the 600 furloughed associates that we had.
Yeah.
And so we asked our loyalty club if they'd be willing to make a cash donation. And I was pleasantly surprised at the volume of members who willingly gave to us, and some in very large sums. It was very humbling, to say the least. And that goes back to your point, which is tapping into that emotion and making the challenge relatable. Can really have an impact.
Yeah, and then are you doing any incentivizing for either applicants or referrals?
Not yet. We haven't yet. Although that could definitely be on the horizon. We're doing internal incentives, right? Cash incentives for referrals for our associates, but doing one externally is something that I hadn't really thought about. That's an excellent idea. Maybe we should look into that.
Do you guys have your own currency? Do you have like Goodwill bucks that you give away that's like kind of equivalent to cash?
No, we have a voucher program, but most of those go to other nonprofits who are in need of clothing and shoes for the populations that they serve. We do have in our loyalty, we're actually in the process of making some changes to our loyalty program, which I think will make it far more valuable to our loyal customers. I'm glad that we're making these changes because I think we need to. We do have a point system where shoppers, the more frequently they shop, the more points they earn, and then they can get a discount at the end of the month, and then it resets. But the new reward, which I can't really talk about yet because we haven't relaunched it, but it's going to be going to provide a substantial discount on select merchandise for people who are members of the club. I think it will be a real incentive for more people to join. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, that's interesting. There's this consultant that I followed named Jay Abraham, and he's all about like unconventional growth techniques and ways to use good leverage basically to grow, not toxic leverage. But one of the things he talks about is, hey, create your own currency, right? Because suppose that I needed $5,000 worth of computer equipment, right? And say that I don't want to spend $5,000. I could go up to computer equipment suppliers and say, hey, we're really good at marketing, right? We'll provide, marketing services for you guys in exchange for, or we'll give you this currency. We'll give you $5,000 of marketing currency that you can use at any time over the next year. You give us $5,000 worth of computers right now, right?
A barter, yeah.
And so sometimes what happens is either A, they won't come and reclaim it, right? Which is, unfortunate, but it's ethical and it happens. Or B, they will come and claim it, and that $5,000 little project might spin into something more. They may become an ongoing client for us, which is great, right? Worst comes to worst, they use it, and we, perform some services in exchange for computers. That's fine too. So I couldn't help but to think about something like that for you guys. Like you may be able to incentivize without it actually costing you that much.
Yeah, that's a really interesting idea. I have to figure out what the benefit would be to the other party. Not everybody's in the market for donated clothing and shoes and housewares. But in your mind, where would you see the value being to the other party?
Like free merchandise, like say that every 10 points is worth $1.
Oh, you're talking about individually. Okay, I'm sorry. I was thinking corporate, some kind of corporate bar.
Or in like in a heavy heartstring place where like the mission and the cause is really important. It might even just be public recognition, like in some sort of gamification type of a way, like if you can, like the way that you treat your largest donors, for instance, like you might put their name on a plaque in some of the stores or what have you. I'm just kind of freestyling here, I know that this is a lot easier said than done, but but I like the idea. Again, you're dealing with retail shoppers, right? The more transactional you can make it, and with a mutual benefit, the more likely they're going to participate. So your mind is in the right place, right? And I'm always open and looking for those types of ways that we can do it. One of the challenges that we face in our Goodwill is that our retail leadership team, while a very bright group of people, their approach to things differs from mine a little bit in that they start from the space of everything is already discounted because it's donated and it's already cheap. So why should we discount it further?
right? Are these people are going to shop in the store whether we discount it or not? So why discount it? That's kind of what their mindset tends to be sometimes.
Yeah.
Whereas mine is thinking more in terms of the customer experience, right? So if you continue to reward them, then they're going to become more frequent shoppers, right? And that's what we want.
Yeah.
So the average transaction might be a little lower if you give them some sort of a discount, but the frequency of transactions will be higher. Yeah. So your net is going to be higher. Right. Yeah. That's the approach that I tend to take. And so we're in the process right now of trying to find the right balance there, make sure that everybody's happy. But what I'm starting to see is with the new retail leadership, we just hired a new VP of retail operations. And I think that we tend to be a little bit more on the same page there. So I'm encouraged by that.
Yeah, there's another fascinating thing from Jay Abraham that I heard the first time, actually, the same dude. Which was he at one time worked with a firm that split tested, like did multivariate split testing in retail environments. So for instance, like they would test 10 different things to say to the customer right when they walked in the door. And so they tested a bunch of stuff and they said that, between, hey, how can I help you? Hey, are you looking for anything today or whatever? But the one that performed best was which ad brought you into the store today? This was apparently like a deals-based kind of retailer. And then in that one moment, they understood exactly what the customer was interested in. And it's kind of like a non-threatening question. It's not like, hey, you want to buy something? It's kind of just curious. But that might be, it's good news that the new VP sounds like he's more on that.
Yeah. I like that approach. I'm a big believer in market research too. I wish that we had more money for it because I find it tremendously valuable in helping in the decision-making process.
Hey, thank you so much, Brendan. It's been a pleasure meeting you.
My pleasure. Pleasure meeting you. Take care now.